Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to talk about Luffy's new transformations. With the revelation that Luffy's devil fruit is actually a Zoan fruit, we now have to explore the idea that Zoan fruits give the ability to use two other transformations to their user, being a hybrid. Usually what we would see is if the user was human, it would give them a human-animal hybrid form, and then of course a complete transformation all the way into the full animal's form. Now both transformations have an advantage and also a disadvantage, but they also impart some incredible powers of this animal to the user of the Zoan fruit. So Luffy's just managed to awaken his Zoan fruit recently, and thus has obtained a common transformation, having only just a few modifications in his appearance. And as we know, when it's a complete transformation, the user really pretty much has a complete change in their physiology and even makeup. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the possibility that Luffy is only currently using his hybrid form in his fight against Kaido. And we're going to talk about what it could mean when we see a full transformation into full Sun God Nika mode. But before we get into that, if you're new to the channel, we'd be absolutely honored if you consider leaving us a like, or even subscribing with a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in an even bigger way, consider sharing the video or the channel with a couple friends. Without further ado, let's get into this video. So friends, with the awakening of the fruit of the Sun God Nika, Luffy obtained some new powers and just a little change in his appearance. After all, we saw his hair became white like flames of the sun, and his clothes also reportedly became white. But this change was kind of quite minimal compared to other Zoan, full transformations. And normally in the full transform, the users assume the makeup and body of this animal or being. But Luffy's only acquired change in his hair, his clothing, and like the whirly eyebrows and such. So this could mean that he's not in his fully transformed state, but is just in his Sun God Nika hybrid form. In this hybrid transformation, he has some limitations. Let's use Kaido as an example. During his hybrid transformation, he can only use his Kanaba to attack, but because of this transformation, he also gets a big boost in strength. And we can see that, this is a very demonstrable increase from when we've seen him fight in his base kind of human form. However, when Kaido fully transforms into a dragon, we see that his ability to do melee work is really all but removed. But then he trades that where he can use his teeth, his body parts, but he can even also use things like his Boro Breath and all of the air-based attacks that we've seen throughout this fight with Luffy. These attacks also, especially the Boro Breath and the wind-based attack, travel very fast and are able to instantly decimate large structures, and gives Kaido a much bigger boost in terms of ranged attack. And we saw how this ruined the, Odin's castle and terrain, like the mountains around there, where it was pretty much desolate and gone after a Boro Breath that was unleashed by Kaido. Now we've also seen that Kaido has the ability to use a slightly kind of similar Boro technique in his hybrid form, but it is drastically reduced in power compared to the full meal kind of deal where he's in his full dragon form. Therefore, the transformation that we're seeing Luffy in is only probably his hybrid form. Now it's going to give Luffy a great deal of freedom, but it may not actually be all the power that this fruit possesses, as its power was feared during the past. This fruit most likely possesses a even greater power yet to be revealed, but may be presented during the moment where Luffy demonstrates the real form of the Sun God Nika and really shows why Joy Boy was considered a deity in the past. Now, it has been said that Joy Boy was a great person, and through the complete transformation of this Sun God Nika fruit, it might have been that way that Joy Boy was able to convince others that he actually was a deity, and this, deity and god of revelation and freedom, as well as what really gave him his powers and his notoriety. It could also be that Joy Boy hid his real appearance so that his deeds would go to and be credited to Nika and not himself. And it could have been in this way really a disguise that he would use to make people hope that the Sun God Nika would one day arrive and save them, and not have it completely tied back to him. This idea of the, liberation god gave hope to the people who had had their freedom taken away. And even though he acted like Nika, Joy Boy at some point in his adventure and his quest to save everyone was recognized recognized as a person who helped many people in the past. A rather comical and kind of ironic scene that may explain the reasons why Luffy couldn't transform into his full transformation during the fight against Kaido is brought up during the Punk Hazard arc, actually. Momonosuke and Luffy are talking, and Momo asks Luffy how he could get back to his normal human form because at the time he was stuck in his dragon form. But Luffy replies that he had no idea how to answer because he's not a Zoan user. So it might be that Luffy didn't yet know that he would go on to maybe realize a full Nika transformation. And as Luffy does so many things in his own brilliant way, his hybrid transformation then kind of happened instinctively. And he had no control over the awakening of his new power. He just awakened Gear 5 without any specific intention of going into hybrid form. In all the techniques that Luffy has shown throughout his fight with Kaido, he's used his creativity to do that. However, if he was to transform into a full sun god, he would have to know how he did it. And really, it would probably be a fairly easy way. You see, in other examples where we've seen Zoan users, it seems that the Zoan user can learn to use their full Zoan form first. Now, of course, there are going to be a few exceptions, so Luffy might have to adapt this new power in order for him to really unlock the full potential of his Nika fruit. Because remember, it's said that this fruit gives total freedom to the user. And so far, Luffy has not demonstrated total freedom the way that the Gorosei described it. So it may be that this hybrid form may just be kind of limiting his power, but just the beginning of what he will be ultimately capable of. In this hybrid transformation, Luffy may be only using a small fraction of this great power that he can possess. Now, as we just said, Luffy's fruit possesses the most freedom. And in his full Nika form, it may be that Luffy might not be able to just enlarge his body, but also gain the ability to just modify his whole body in any way, shape, or form he wants. Taking this idea to kind of the fullest distance we could go, it would mean that Luffy could change the shape of his body and getting the rubber that exists to transform into any state as if the rubber was just in this liquid, runny, any way. And in this way, Luffy's body would almost become a Logia, for he'd have the ability to kind of move his body in much the same way Katakuri has moved his body because of his awakened Mochi Mochi no Mi. This freedom of movement and form would allow Luffy to pretty much create any kind of strike he wanted, or even strikes that molded around things and then maybe turned into a hand or something like that. For instance, he might be able to have a punch with rubber spikes, or modifying his hand to resemble a stick or a hammer, or maybe even modify his body, which is, beyond what his hybrid currently limits him from doing. Kaido also analyzed this during his fight and kind of said that this awakening gave Luffy very unusual powers, and it gave him the ability to kind of use the elements from both Paramecia and Zoan awakenings, something that few awakened fruits really possess anyway. So with this awakening, let's go through the different abilities, which first and foremost, this awakening gave Luffy a huge boost in strength and an increase in his elasticity, because of course it's a Zoan fruit, and it allowed him to match the strength level of Kaido, who of course has one of the greatest physical strengths that we've seen in the manga. Another thing that was very noticeable from this transformation is that he got a hybrid form of the sun god's real appearance, and in this way Luffy presented all the characteristics of an awakened Zoan fruit. So we saw his eyebrows change, his hair and clothes turn white, but this may again just be a little piece of what's yet to come. Luffy also managed to use the techniques that only an awakened Paramecia has the ability, where he managed to turn the ground into rubber and then used it to repel Kaido's Boro breath right back at him. Something quite interesting to note as well is that the elasticity of Luffy's rubber also went really off the charts and was able to reflect back Kaido's attack without causing any explosion during the moment Luffy reflects the attack back. But in his physical body, Luffy doesn't have this same incredible elasticity, or at least maybe not to that degree, because we saw how he was able to take hits from Kaido and formed around the weapon. And we still saw that when he got hit, he'd still crash into the ground after receiving Kaido's attacks. So although his ability to affect the environment may be a little bit higher, or kind of a little bit more reflective, he still was really able to tank some major hits from Kaido without really showing much damage at all. So with that in mind, if Luffy were to go into full Sun God Nika form, it might be that he may be so elastic and so just free that he wouldn't suffer any damage from physical attacks, because nothing would ever really hit his body. But again, we also have to remember that Luffy's fruit has the same weaknesses as any devil fruit, especially even the most powerful of Logias, and that's Haki. And this would immediately make his elasticity useless, and cutting attacks still could hurt him, and even elemental powers such as fire or lava or ice or even light. Another benefit of this increased elasticity is that he would get an ability to dodge attacks much more easily like Katakuri, to the point that he could maybe just create holes and attacks would just go right through it. Another thing about this is that Luffy's rubber powers already give him a really great ability to move around, and so his mobility, we can only expect, would go higher as he achieves these greater and higher forms of his awakening and Zoan properties. All these things would make this new transformation of Luffy's really powerful. I mean, dare I say, getting near broken. And that would allow him to really have the freedom to do whatever he wanted, however he needed to, whether it was a means to attack or defend or whatever. I mean, and we gotta know, this is Luffy, so some comical uses as well are definitely not outside the realm of possibilities. One thing that hasn't been explained though is whether Luffy is gonna have any power of kind of flames of the sun. I mean, the name is Sun God Nika, and we have seen Luffy use fire-based attacks with his Red Hawk and Red Rock. We've seen these things, but it may be that in his full Sun God transformation, Luffy may actually get the ability to harness the power of the sun and add this to his punches and his already just vast arsenal of strikes to cause damage and even burn his enemies even more. We also don't know what the full Sun God Nika would look like, as it's just a concept of a deity that only belongs to the One Piece universe. As Nika doesn't exist in any other mythology and tales besides the One Piece universe. So to know his real appearance, it's only when we're gonna find out in the future where Oda reveals what this person is and how this might have been related to something much deeper. One source that we do know that Oda drew from was a book entitled The Encyclopedia of Things You Never Knew Existed. And in it there is a small inset that describes a individual known as Joy Boy, who was a person who was celebrated throughout the Caribbean and known to bring the sounds of liberation and dancing and joy. So it could be that Oda may be taking kind of direct inspiration from this Joy Boy mythological character and then translating it and giving it his own One Piece spin as the form of Nika. Either way it works out, we probably may see that the user is going to acquire flames on their body and also get some kind of a glow, because it was mentioned that Luffy was really quite bright, and this is going to be symbolizing the sun's rays, and a connection to this power may run much deeper. So if Nika possesses a flame, it may even be that these flames burn hotter than the Paramecia no Mi itself. But Luffy isn't able to harness these flames yet because he can't fully get the transformation and go into his full Zoan Sun God transformation. Another interesting thing to think about too is that we've seen Luffy adapt fire into his punches, as I said before, much earlier in the story, and at first we thought it was to pay homage to his brother Ace and, of course, remember Sabo. But it's really interesting how it correlated with the real fruit that he had. So when he achieves full Nika transformation, it might be that Luffy becomes something of this flame kind of god. And it may even be that the flames may go upwards to something of like the temperature of a Kainu's lava. And really, we gotta consider that that is gonna be one of the next high-level enemies that Luffy's gonna have to face because of Akainu strikes and his ability to burn his opponents. And so one would have to have a way to hold him off. But just to conclude our talk, we want to think about and bring it back to the idea that although Luffy has demonstrated some amazing techniques throughout his fight with Kaido, he really hasn't shown that amazing level of freedom that was alleged and kind of alluded to by the Gorosei. So this has got to be something that's really exciting to look forward to, and for now, I'd love to know what you think about it. What do you think that Luffy's gonna have? Do you think that Luffy has one more transformation and a full Zoan at that? Or do you think he's, just gonna have another gear? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video today, I want to thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end. Make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, why don't you give us a like or maybe hit that subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video. Let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.